So years ago, I used to believe that there was this correlation between your effort and the outcomes that you actually get in academia. Um, and that the more effort that you actually put in, the more outcomes that you get, right? So that there would be a simple correlation. This is a general story that's told, and I think everybody understands this, that there is this effort versus outcome reward thing that goes on within the academic game, or what people believe it to be. The more work that you put in, the more papers you get, the more, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the longer I've been with the game, the longer I realize that that whole thing is a game. And there is very little correlation between the effort that you actually get and the outcomes that happen. In fact, I would say it's a correlation of zero. That there is, ultimately no correlation in the long run between the effort that you put in and the outcomes that you actually get. I think this is far more explained by other factors outside of just sheer effort and just putting in the work. These other factors are things like your network, for example, the institution that you went to, the resources that you have access to, um, any number of different things. And I know that this is kind of a hard reality, or sort of pessimistic reality. But I think the longer I've played in this arena, the more I sort of see how this plays out. Oh, another important thing is your simply just your area of interest. That there's massive differences between your area of interest in terms of what you're doing and the individuals or outcomes that the outcomes that you actually get. Um, and the more I've played this game, the more I have essentially um, I've been more disconnected in it. And I know it's extremely painful for me, and it's probably painful for a lot of people to come to this conclusion. Um, because I'm always bumping up against the wall. Um, and I've concluded this um, for a lot of different reasons, but primarily in terms of how little the outcomes you actually get versus the work that you put into things versus, having access to different opportunities and things like that that are just essentially out of your control. Um, so, what can we take from this? I think, given that, um, it's hard for me to be optimistic about the profession. Um, and in fact, I don't see a lot of positive aspects with that. But the only thing that I can do, and the only thing I can say, is to take a step back and realize that it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, all of it doesn't matter. And what matters is that I get to go home to my family. Um, I get to do simple things where I see them every night. I get to have dinner with them. I get to just do simple things. And it's such a challenging thing to reconcile um, and come to terms with, because sort of careerism is deeply, deeply ingrained in the profession. It's cooked into it essentially in the reward system. Um, but I've come to terms with just simply saying that, you know, none of that stuff matters. And whatever happens, I'll be okay. Whatever happens, I could take a step back and I can say, I'm doing fine. Whatever happens, I can recognize that, in fact, despite all of this, which I don't believe in, right? The sort of mechanism, the sort of academic game, I just don't believe in it anymore. Um, Despite all of that, I have people that care for me. Um, I have a small group of people that I like to be around and see. Um, and there's lots of just little things that matter outside of all of that we strive for and all of that kind of stuff. I've become so detached, and it's hard to reconcile. That's the thing that's really hard, is that there is a lot of me that wants to sort of play that game and do all of that kind of stuff, but then the other part of me gets sort of bumps up against it, where I realize that it's just a game. um, and the correlation is just, it doesn't exist, right, in terms of the effort that you put in, the outcomes that you get. And so I've come to terms with imagining myself as a failure, and come to terms with living in that arena where I am a failure, and trying to build everything else around it so that I have a wonderful life. And I think that's an important lesson that comes all out of all of this, is basically coming to terms with saying, you know, fuck it. I'm going to live a wonderful life despite all of that. And yes, I'm going to put in the effort and do the job and all of that kind of stuff, but the rest of it, who cares ultimately? And I've become more of a kind of person where I'm just like, I don't believe in any of it. And the thing that matters is spending time with family and friends, actually, getting to know people, saying hi to people, all that kind of stuff, smiling. But the rest of it, fuck it. Doesn't matter in the end, anyways. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful day.